Well, good afternoon and good evening to some of you, depending on where you're coming from. My name is Kathy Hawkins, and I am just delighted that we are starting our fourth webinar of our Spring Festival. It's hard to believe that this is already here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a poll. We want to get some information from all of you and just find out a little bit more about you. And feel free to go ahead and answer that. And again, we are just so glad you're here. A couple other things while we're getting started. You may notice that you have your video and your microphone turned off if you are checking in from our devices, computer, tablet, phone. That's so that when our panelists are speaking, they're able to just have the focus. And likewise, if you're calling in, we also have your microphone turned off and muted. So welcome. Those of you just joining us, we have a poll, and we're hoping that you'll take a minute to fill that out. And we wanted to let you know that tonight our webinar is being live captioned. So I will go ahead and put in our chat the actual text, and that if anyone would like to make advantage of that, feel free to use that. So again, webinar number 4, these are our student artists and residents from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And you can also click closed caption at the bottom right corner of your screen to access it. And CART is available on stream text. So you can go to the link in the chat to access that. So I'm looking here to see how our attendee list is looking. And folks are still coming in, so we'll give it another minute or so. And in the meantime, what I'm going to do is go ahead and introduce you to our wonderful moderator for today's webinar. TimeSlips Founder and Basting is also the founder and instructor of the Student Artist in Residence program at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And now it is also at the University of Louisville and Oral Roberts University. I'm pleased to introduce you to Anne today. She's the founder of TimeSlips, a faculty member in the English department at the university, an Ashoka Fellow, a MacArthur Fellow, and she's the lead creative strategist for TimeSlips. Her latest book, Creative Care, A Revolutionary Approach to Dementia and Elder Care, just came out in paperback within the last week. So Anne, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Here I am. Thank you so much, Kathy. Let me say that I'm not at Oral Roberts University, but the SAIR program is. And also if you're curious to learn more about the history of SAIR, there is a chapter in Creative Care just on the origin and the impact of the program. So you can learn lots more about it. I wanted to say welcome everybody. I know everybody's coming in from all over the place. But I come to you from Milwaukee. I like to say, if I threw a rock really, really hard, I don't know if I have that much arm strength, but if I threw it really hard, I could maybe get it into Lake Michigan. But I come to you from here where we are on the traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homeland, along the southwest shores of Michigami, North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain vitally present. And Kathy, I know you're going to drop in the chat to where you can learn what native lands you all are living on as well. Sam, do you want to pull up the PowerPoint? I have the great good fortune to introduce you all to the program of our SAIR students from the last year. The SAIR program really started about 8 years ago out of a gathering of staff and local care organizations We called ourselves then, as we gathered around the table, I think the first meeting was probably at High Point, the Creative Trust. And we were committed to bringing together the creative potential of UWM's faculty and students with the elders of Milwaukee and their partners in care and support. After a year of programming, we came up with the idea of having a student assigned to each community that was participating. Then Laura Wengler at East Castle Place and Trish Cohn of High Point said, why don't they just live here? And with that was the first adventure in this immersive experience. The program evolved over the years. We learned a lot. Like from that first year, a semester is not long enough to build community. Some students live in now, and some students receive a stipend, but in both cases, it's a year-long deep dive. Some students also work in long-term care settings. Others now collaborate with other ages of the differently abled, like Islands of Brilliance and their really amazing work with young people with autism. In every case, as I said, it's a year-long opportunity to build community and use creative engagement, a chance to build deep friendships and fully immerse oneself in a different mindset. Students don't need to be experts in the arts. We learn to tap and invite the innate creativity in everyone, but it's perfect for students in the arts who can also share their craft. It has been a privilege, sincerely, I'm looking at you guys when I say this, to guide these SAIRs over the years and to watch the program expand now to other campuses. In the fall, they have a month of intense onboarding where we learn creative engagement techniques and community building techniques. And then they offer creative engagement workshops with their communities, eventually building toward a culminating event in the communities, and also a shared SAIR event. That is this event. It is a way for the SAIRs to share all that has happened this year with you and to say thank you to each other as they've helped support each other through this experience, and to their communities, especially their mentors who have guided them all year, and their participants who shared with them the gift of their creativity. These last 2 years have been a story of opposites, exhausting and exhilarating, filled with new connections and filled with losses. Through it all, I think you're going to hear that creativity was a lifeline to each other, to community, and to maintaining our own sense of self. Now I get to introduce them, and they in turn can tell you about their communities and their mentors. First, we have Danielle Hobach. Danielle is a curious wanderer who dabbles in many creative pursuits and is passionate about helping others discover theirs. She has found an abundance of new relationships and pen pals in her past 2 years as a student artist in residence, first at Luther Manor and then at Laurel Oaks. In May, she will graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree in Occupational Science and Technology and begin her next adventure. And we'll go around after everyone's presentations and we'll hear a little bit about their next adventures. Next slide. Natalie Dirk was mentored by Wendy Chosick and Cesar Baji. Natalie is a visual artist, researcher. Oh, sorry, that was Danielle who was mentored by them. Natalie is mentored at Islands of Brilliance. She is a visual artist, researcher, mentor, and restless soul working within Milwaukee communities. Born and raised in Wisconsin, Natalie has a strong commitment to working with local people. Her personal work explores the ideas of home, personal expression as healing, and community togetherness through the arts. She is currently a second-year student artist in residence with Milwaukee nonprofit Islands of Brilliance, as I said, where she leads design thinking workshops for neurodiverse individuals. This community has been a great opportunity to see how art can empower on an individual level and professionalize creative awareness. Natalie is a fourth-year digital studio practice major at UWM with an emphasis in painting and drawing. She's currently completing her Bachelor of Fine Arts degree at UWM. Next slide is Issa Castro. Issa is a multidisciplinary artist who explores collage, digital art, and acrylic painting. Issa's academic path is architecture with a minor in community art. She embraces community engagement within art making and strives to learn different techniques toward facilitating community engaged artwork. Next, we have Austin Shu. Austin Shu is a senior at UWM, graduating with a bachelor's in creative writing. He shared his SAIR experience with Laurel Oaks, using storytelling as well as poetry. He hopes to be an author or professor in the future. Of his SAIR experience, Austin says, "This was a great look at teaching. I sincerely hope I've made a lasting impact here." And finally, we have Jessica Mendez. She is a first-year master's student of sustainable peace building as in the graduate program. Before starting graduate school, Jessica was a Peace Corps English teacher in Mongolia. She graduated from Loyola University in Chicago with 2 degrees in business, but now hopes to work in the peace and community development fields. Let's turn it over first to Danielle.
Hello, everyone. I'm Danielle Hobach. Get these slides up. I hope everyone is comfy and cozy tonight. And tonight I will be sharing the story, The Death Letters. Next slide. Dear Grandma and Grandpa, a lot has happened the past 2 years. In spring 2019, I wanted to become a student artist in residence, but I didn't know how. My boss, Nigel, had suggested I ask for guidance on applying for the program as a non-art student rather than asking permission. And hey, it worked. Next slide. You may remember I was placed at Luther Manor in Wauwatosa with Kathy Jazz as my mentor. When I'd come to visit you two, Grandpa would ask, "How's living with them old folks?" I had shared about my ongoing program, the Welcome Club, where residents and I would make greeting cards to celebrate birthdays and welcome new community members. I enjoyed the stories residents shared and making friends with my regulars. But what I didn't share about that year was how challenging it really was. The emotional labor this work requires was a lot for me to adjust to. I was dealing with chronic health problems as a result of poor coping. I wasn't my best self, and I'm sorry for that. Next slide. Around Christmas that year, you both were in the hospital and we sang songs together through masks since Grandma had pneumonia and was under droplet precaution. Next slide. This was the beginning of what I considered the capital really bad times. Luther Manor saw a lot of death in February. I came back to the healthcare center after one weekend and Kathy Jazz told me Wayne, one of my regulars, had passed after a sudden decline. I could always count on him to give any of my programs a try. And about 10 days later, after a month of hospice, Grandpa too passed in his sleep. There was news about this new virus popping up in the United States. Grandpa, your funeral was planned for the first week in March, and thankfully we were able to gather with our large family as usual. Within 2 weeks, Wisconsin had shut down due to concerns regarding the coronavirus. Fearing the safety of my community, I stayed in my apartment for 2 weeks, and after I decided it wasn't sustainable for me, I packed up what I could fit in my car and drove to Mom and Dan's house, hoping to return when things settled down. Next slide. I continued to engage with residents virtually through videos I had created. Luther Manor showed them on their in-house channel. Brianna even did a commercial break for me with one of the songs she wrote for school. She's a good sister that way. Next slide. I sent over thinking of you cards for the life enrichment staff to hand out to residents, and I mailed more personal cards for my group of regulars. I didn't want them to believe I had abandoned them since I hadn't been able to say goodbye. Next slide. About a week later, I received one of the cards back. Next slide. Written on the front was "Return to sender, deceased 3/29/20, the first death letter. What a strange way to receive a death notification." Next slide. By the end of May, this virus wasn't going away anytime soon, and Luther Manor asked me to return to move out my belongings. Next slide. Hoping for a safer autumn, I accepted a SAIR position at Laurel Oaks in Glendale. I had already met Wendy and Cesar at the SAIR barbecue the previous June, so I felt confident about their mentorship. Next slide. So in August of 2020, I moved into my apartment at Laurel Oaks, having not previously met any of the residents. And after my initial 5-day quarantine, I was free to roam. Next slide. In one of my first programs, I met Janine. Gesturing to all of me, she said, "You look like $1,000,000 and I love all this." Later, unrelated, she confessed she has really poor eyesight and she just fakes it. I guess I sounded stylish. Next slide. I continued with card making programs and a paper friendship quilt later in autumn. We can only have 9 residents attend each program and everyone must be spaced out and wearing a mask. I developed deeper friendships with Edie, Shannon, and Bev. Next slide. During each of my card making programs, Richard has written a card to his wife, Frances. He writes such thoughtful notes for her and asks me to mail them out for him. Next slide. He has forgotten Frances has been gone for a while. Next slide. Though not sent from me, this bundle is an honorary second death letter. Next slide. And next slide. Next slide. They say you find something when you're searching for it. In early December, there was another batch of loss. Grandma, I mailed your Christmas card on Monday, and by late Tuesday morning, Mom had called to inform me you passed in your sleep. Next slide. The third death letter. I'm disappointed I didn't get to see you before then. Your friend George had passed the night before, and 2 of our residents passed in the following days. I tried my best to wrap up my first entirely virtual semester of college while processing everything. Virtual funerals are strange, but I appreciated I could react however felt authentic to me in that moment. I hope I don't regret not attending your funeral in person someday, but I made the best decision for myself and my community at that time. The holidays were tough, and I decided to stay at Laurel Oaks to avoid any potential exposure. Next slide. I had put together a secret project with the help of some people over Facebook who sent holiday cards for the residents. I assembled bundles for each person and we handed them out at our Christmas Eve happy hour. At first, residents were confused and wondered where all these cards had come from, but eventually everyone was delighted to see strangers had written them such thoughtful cards, wishing them a happy holiday season. Next slide. Next slide. We rang in the new year with another happy hour and champagne toast, hoping this year would be better than the last. Just before dinner time on January 5th, I opened a bottle of beer, hoping to enjoy my evening when the fire alarm went off. This happens frequently, but usually it turns off within a couple minutes. This time it kept going, and after I noticed a caregiver running down the hall pushing her resident in her wheelchair, I realized this was real. I headed downstairs to the front desk to see what was going on. After about 45 minutes, the residents and I pieced together a fire had originated in an apartment on the 2nd floor, down the hall a ways from where my apartment was. She said the smoke was so thick she could barely see. And after everyone was safely evacuated, Cesar and I put together an impromptu happy hour. And despite the fear of what damage the fire may have caused, most seemed glad to have a sense of community and gather together. We agreed to get all the bad stuff out of the way for the year early on. And after nearly 5 hours, we were finally cleared to return to our apartments. Some residents were displaced for the night due to smoke and water damage, but thankfully no one was seriously hurt. By February, we had our first COVID vaccine clinic, which brought a surge of hope to the community. With spring approaching and the ground thawing, I could feel the community shedding some of the weight this pandemic has brought. Next slide. And next slide. Last week, I hosted a painting program and successfully convinced 2 of our most fickle residents to join in. I don't know what was in the air that day, but I hope it returns for my final few programs. These past 2 years have been incredibly challenging, yet the most rewarding. I've learned about myself and others, how to set boundaries and honor my limits. I've met many beautiful humans, if only for a short time. They are my friends. No one prepared me for an experience where most of my friends will likely die before me. We all take our turn though, don't we? Next slide. All my love, Danielle. P.S. This is the 4th death letter. Next slide. I'd like to thank all of my friends and family who have supported me the last couple of years. I really couldn't have done it without you, and you mean so much to me. Next slide. And tonight I just want to remember all of our loved ones that we've lost during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. And thank you all so much.
It's really, really beautiful. And I hope we find a way to have you individually maybe do a little video of that so that we can keep that. And I apologize, my dog is very frantic in the background. Next up, we have Natalie Dirk.
I think I just need to take a second. Like, that was really, really touching and beautiful. And I feel like really lucky to have known Danielle throughout the 2nd year of the SAIR program. So that was really beautiful. Where's that little present button? There it is. Okay. So this has some transitions in it. So you can click 4 times. So hello and welcome all who have joined in today. Following up Danielle's, that was so beautiful. But I'd like everybody to sit back and enjoy my diary of the last 2 magical years as a SAIR. So first things first, how did it start? I signed up for the Student Artist in Residence program at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I was placed with Islands of Brilliance. Let me just move my here. I was placed with Islands of Brilliance as an offsite SAIR, and I felt extremely welcomed and extremely comfortable in my environment right off the bat. That's kind of their whole thing. So it really felt so special to be there. And I am a firm believer in things that happen for a reason. Next slide. So what is Islands of Brilliance? Islands of Brilliance is a nonprofit organization for individuals with the autism spectrum disorder, ASD. It utilizes project-based learning, student strengths, and areas of interest to grow their creative capabilities and interpersonal skills. IOB creates the ideal environments for students instead of expecting students to adapt to that environment, which makes sense why when I was there, you just feel a sense of comfort when you walk in the door. Next slide. So my first year, this is what it looked like. Next slide. I got to meet the 2 co-founders of Islands of Brilliance, Mark and Margaret, which they're just a fabulous couple in general. I also got to work with Milwaukee-based visual artist at the bottom there, Matope Johnson. He actually was my mentor. Islands of Brilliance partnered with Milwaukee College prep schools to form the Brilliant Sandbox project, which aimed to create neurodiverse and neurotypical peer allies in school through creative workshops once a month. I actually got the pleasure of leading and planning these workshops. Next slide. Some activities, and then you can click once more, there's a transition in there. Some activities done in the Sandbox program included collaboratively writing and performing poems and songs based off the prompts, school lunches, bullying, and shared interests. The next slide has empathy and color studies, assigning personal meanings to colors and symbols in relation to the peers and their partnerships. So the traditional connotations to colors such as red is mad and blue as sad was kind of a little too traditional, and I wanted students to kind of think of their own definitions and defy the categories of color and think abstractly with each other as far as colors, symbols, and form. Next, we had Plato Prompts, which was super fun for students to creatively represent the intangible ideas of love, respect, friendship, and growth. The student at the top made a flower to represent growth. The student at the bottom, I believe he made like a workout set made out of Play-Doh to represent growth. So it was really cool to see how they could represent these sort of intangible ideas that we're so used to. So these were the two groups of MCP students and their peer partners. It's kind of sad, but I'm glad that I could document this into my digital diary because little did I know it would be the last time I actually got to create with them due to the pandemic. So these pictures are really special to me because this is how I'll remember them all in one. So on to year 2, which is my current year until May 17th. This year, I got the pleasure of working with Amy Mason on the left, Director of Integrated Learning at Islands of Brilliance, Stephanie Phillips, my mentor and special education support in the middle there, and Charlie Fairbanks, Creative Tech Support. These are some of the coolest people ever. I'm just so honored to be able to speak about them and have worked with them as well. So then there's one more transition. Once a month, I led a SMACtivities workshop. SMACtivities are 50-minute topic-based live Zoom sessions that are fun, engaging, and challenge the creative imagination. The themes are created and planned by myself and other Islands of Brilliance staff and include fun workshops such as animal mashup, create your own holiday, create your own villain, island getaway, create a tiny town, and of course, these examples of student work from design your own log cabin, plant mashup, and design your own planet, which was a really fun one. Next, we have Doodle Lounge. I love Doodle Lounge. This is a daily virtual space offered for participants to draw, create, and share their artwork via Zoom. I believe this happens every day. Doodle Lounge is a safe space, a supportive environment, and a really fun social gathering for creative individuals with ASD. I attend Doodle Lounge every Monday as creative support and present students with special Doodle Lounge challenges such as, let's see the ones I have on the slide. What would you look like as a robot? Draw an insect doing something unusual, an animal out of its element, an unusual sidekick, an animal with a superpower, and my personal favorite, give a vegetable a personality. It was also like a great experience for me to provide examples for these drawing challenges because it made me have like this arsenal of like doodles on my iPad that I could just randomly whip out whenever I wanted to. And last but not least, Brilliant Treasures. Brilliant Treasures is a brand new program I got the chance to help co-create this year. Brilliant Treasures partners IOB participants with residents from both East Castle Place and Ovation High Point in Milwaukee as pen pals. It's a beautiful way to connect older adults and youth living with autism to nurture the importance of intergenerational relationships in a very uncertain, lonesome, and stressful time. Participants from both ends have fun engaging in art-based activity workshops once a month via Zoom, a chance for them to actually be able to meet, even though they couldn't meet if it was an in-person setting because of COVID. They primarily interact through letter writing and engage with our postcard challenges of the month. Some workshops we've held so far have included, we had residents and students take a shoebox and transform it into a treasure box, so that they had a place to store their future letters from their pen pals. We also had personal introduction collages so that residents could kind of tell the students their story. We also had a workshop called A Trip Down Memory Lane, Create a Recipe for Happiness, Random Acts of Kindness, and Create a Character and Write a Story following it. And as a bonus, Islands of Brilliance Digital Academy actually got the chance to design our logo, which is at the top there. So there's so many things that I learned along the way. I honestly could take up the entire 8-minute presentation with all the things that I learned from this. But just a few I would say is that I am most certain that I have met the most creative minds of the future, the most like well-rounded imaginations and positivity and enthusiasm for life and anything I could have ever asked to be surrounded by. And an individual's power to succeed is not based on their disability whatsoever. And we also had a class presenter, Vijay Gupta, and his words really prompted me. Your creative practice is both a mirror and a lens that ultimately makes up your life. And of course, during the course of Doodle Lounge and some activity, we have a lot of educational and silly conversations that yield a lot of information and really grows your knowledge for the world around you. So some silly facts that I learned was once snails start moving forward, they can't go backwards. Whale sharks are larger than basking sharks and are the largest fish swimming in the oceans. And I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but Arak were a huge cattle breed that are now extinct, the ancestors of all modern cattle. Giant tube worms live over a mile deep on the ocean floor next to hydrothermal vents and survive off just the bacteria in their bodies. The snapdragon seed pod looks like a miniature human skull. And this is one that I just recently learned from Shane, is that dust mites are not insects, but in fact, arachnids. I wanted to kind of document some things that there's a lot of positive talk during all of these workshops, and I just wanted to highlight 2 quotes. And then the last slide. So thank you all so much for being here today and honoring the time and dedication of my fellow SAIRs. I'd like to give a special shout out to Mark, Margaret, Amy, Stephanie, and Charlie for always being open and supportive of me. I am forever grateful for the opportunity to have been your first SAIR. If anybody would like to contact me, my Gmail is up there, and I also am Cowgirl with a Paintbrush on Instagram. Thank you so much.
I can't resist saying thanks a bunch to Natalie as well. Really fantastic. And next up, I'm just gonna, unfortunately, I would love to make lots of comments, but we have to keep moving to make sure we get everybody in. Issa Castro is next up.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Yes, so I'm Issa Castro. Había una vez, there once was. I'm the first, well, this is my first year as a SAR at Jewish Family Services, mainly at Deerwood Crossing Senior Residences in Brown Deer. We can go to the next slide. So the mission overall through my time at Deerwood, as I started reflecting through my writings that I did daily and the projects I proposed every month, was how it was shaping residents' opportunity to reflect, heal, and experience or explore art. And so the plan of action, I was able to connect with my mentor, Dan, at the site. And we started thinking on how we would reactivate programming at Deerwood, because I came during a time where everything was kind of frozen. There was no programming for residents to engage. And it was just kind of the side effects of COVID, where now social gatherings were very limited, or even, not capable of being able to be in the same space as another person. And so as I came in and joined the Deerwood community, I really wanted to establish a routine. We can go to the next slide. Let me see. Oh, okay. A routine of every Tuesday and Thursday being able to provide different art activities for residents to participate in. And I had the ability to be at a site where we were able to meet in person, but also follow social distancing protocols. And so knowing this, I made sure that the art that that I wanted to have go on in the site was accessible to all residents. So I had it be hybrid, where it would be in person, as well as art kits being made for anybody who would want to participate in any of these activities. You can go to the next slide. So here's a picture of the site where I worked in, and this is where we would gather every Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 3. And this was the dining room. We call it like meet me in the dining room. And so I would make sure to call my residents ahead of time for whoever has signed up for an activity, give them a 30-minute heads up that we were starting our workshop, and they had the ability to participate in painting and drawing, printmaking, creating art with yarn. So I try to really make sure that we were getting a full-on grasp of different crafts. We can go to the next slide. And so I'll go through just like 3 of the main projects that the residents really enjoyed. And the first one, actually, the first activity I was able to provide was collage. And the use of collage, we can go to the next slide, was actually creating vision boards. And so I gave a writing prompt on how to kind of guide them on the vision board creating it. And the questions were, what were your strengths? What inspires you? What are you seeing in your day-to-day life? What is something that you would like to add or change? And so these were a couple of the questions that the residents were able to engage with while creating their collage. And we can go to the next slide. And so this is kind of the beginning of what was being produced, where we would cut out all these different pictures, and then we would then have the final product as seen on this slide. These are different vision boards that were created by different residents, and a lot of them were very reflective on the current time with COVID, as well as the social movements that were going on. We can go to the next slide. And so this was an activity where I wanted to get to know my residents, and they had the ability to get to know me. And we had a lot of deep conversations on ourselves. And so it was definitely a healing moment of being able to re-engage in a social gathering space and getting to express ourselves not only with words, but also through visual art. We can go to the next slide. So I took this quote out of my journal, where I got to kind of just talk about like the process of creating these vision boards, and how this really did have a big impact on the conversations that were being held in this space, which was the main purpose of having these workshops in person, and being able to reconnect with residents, just because there was, we had a whole year of having a social gathering kind of be deprived. So how do we go back to that? We slowly got to engage through these workshops, and then start discussing about the things that were happening in our lives. And so not only that, but as we were looking into the magazines, we were also discussing how there was a lack of representation. So there was a lot of good topics being discussed in every Tuesday and Thursday in the dining room. We can go to the next activity. So as I started creating this routine, a lot of the residents were, we can go to the next slide, were very motivated to create artwork, knowing that every Tuesday and Thursday, Issa was going to be there in the dining room. And they were so eager to learn different techniques of art. And this was the month of printmaking. And so I facilitated 2 ways of printmaking, where we would engrave on a foam plate, and then we would transfer that onto the paper with paint. And then the second way, we can go to the next slide, was through actually sticking on foam shapes to create our own patterns or image, and then transferring that as well. And another thing about these type of activities, providing a lot of different ways of creating art, was that we would produce a lot. We would produce a lot. I would tell my residents, like, it's not about getting something perfect the first time. It's just about creating in a moment, being in a moment, sharing the experience. So they were able to create up to like 10 to 15 prints that they were able to keep. They were able to hang on their doors. They were able to share with their family members, and they ended up becoming experts. And this ended up happening a couple of times with different activities. You can go to the next slide. And when certain residents would come in at a later time than others, the other residents would have the ability to interpret their way of how they're doing their own process of printmaking, and got to inform the other residents of what they had missed out, or what other techniques they had discovered while creating their own prints. We can go to the next slide. So, oh, I forgot to mention, if we go back a slide to the right, that's Miss Lloyd. So I took a quote from her when we were talking while we were creating her prints, and we can go to the back to the next slide. She had expressed how this was such a beautiful process, and she had created a bunch of prints. And so I asked her, I'm like, do you want to continue creating some prints, or are you ready to kind of just end your time with me? Sometimes residents were okay with just creating something just like once, and they were like, okay, off with their day. But Miss Lloyd expressed how she wanted to stay a little longer. And what that told me was that there was a great necessity of being able to socialize with others. And she said that this was the moment when majority of the residents would gather. And so she wanted to stay until I would clean up, because sometimes I would stay a little longer. We can go to the next slide. So now going on to the next activity, string art. This is actually a recent activity that I had at Deerwood with my residents. And it was the first time I've ever proposed this project before. And it was two ways that I was interpreting it. Either we would create something geometric, develop our own patterns, overlay. The goal was to learn how to color through yarn. You can go to the next slide. And a lot of residents were really interested in this activity. And one resident, Stephen, expressed to me how he was so surprised that he was able to create something like this. And I was like, well, that's great. Like, let's continue doing this. And so he stayed the whole workshop, and he was creating all of these string art. And I just kept hearing his reactions of how he was doing things. And after that, the first time he was asking me, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? After the second time, he was like, I already know what I'm doing. We can go to the next slide. So the residents, they were able to create their own pattern of their own workflow. And you can see from the left to the right, there's two different types of projects going on where they're creating an art piece that is shaped into a heart, and the other piece to the very right doesn't really have a specific form. So I, as the facilitator, made sure that there was different types of challenges within the activities, and the residents got to choose what type of activity they wanted to work on that day. Next slide. So this is Charles right here. He really took this activity to another level. He was one of my regulars. So Charles is in the far back, and he is an artist himself. I got to meet a lot of residents who create their own artwork in their own apartments. And he expressed, we can go to the next slide, how he was inspired by this. He calls them exercises. I'm like, yes, this is great. I wanted to expose them to activities that they probably haven't had the chance to do, or something different out of the ordinary. And so he expressed how he now wants to go back to his apartment, recreate the same activity, but on canvas, and start adding beads into it. And so he does his own work. He's an abstract expressionist artist. He dabbles in both. And so I was very happy to see that he was inspired by what was being proposed in these workshops. You can go to the next slide. So now, ending my time at Deerwood, we are creating a gallery night. And this is basically we're gathering all the works that we've created throughout all of these workshops into one gallery night to be able to share with the rest of the community, as well as engaging other residents that create their own artwork to also participate as well. So they have the chance to show their work to others, work that hasn't been seen by anyone else, and they want to share their artwork. And so this is currently where we are at Deerwood, and more information will be coming to everyone soon. but this is currently what we have in the works. Here's Charles again. He got to show some of his artwork that he does in his room. And so this is kind of the way that the residents got to engage, where they started bringing on their own artwork that they create, from jewelry to painting to drawing. So there was a lot of variety of residents that are ready to show their work in this gallery night. But this concludes my presentation, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Issa. It was such a joy to watch this program evolve, and I think the adaptations that we all went through, especially Issa, in sort of the lockdowns and the opening ups and the lockdowns and the openings up. It was a real wave over the last year to find a thread to keep going. So thank you for that. And we'll share also on the TimeSlips site, if people are curious and want an invitation to the gallery opening, I think they can learn more, or to at least see the documentation from it. Next up, we have Austin Shu.
Hello, I'm Austin Shu, and I'll be telling a story about my time here at Laurel Oaks. So I called my story Once Upon a Time in a Seemingly Magical Place Called Laurel Oaks. I was preparing to write a new chapter in the Laurel Oaks story, but before I started writing, I needed to know the characters, the people who populated this place of wonder. I met the leaders of the community, Cesar and Wendy, who helped me prepare my chapter. They showed me the ropes, introducing me to residents who would be more than happy to help me tell a story, teaching me the layout of the community, and even went as far as helping me build my own community of writers. I made plans for programs and activities around stories and poetry. I wanted to not only share my old experiences, but to create new ones. I tried my best with what I had, but all the stories were too difficult to write, and the writers weren't all too amused with the inspiration I had brought. But I got to know my residents, like the ex-nurses Edie, who enjoyed the company as well as the creative outlet, and Dan, who was looking for something to do and found himself having fun telling stories, as well as the stoic engineer Paul, who to this day tries his very best to express himself on the page. They all loved something different about the program, and they were the ones who stuck around while I worked out how to make it better. The first programs were simple but easy to follow. We used the TimeSlips storytelling style to create a story about some pictures of mine. The story was great, but the group wasn't all too inspired by the pictures, until one night I got a call from my hometown where my sister, an artist, offered a new form of inspiration. She drew pictures to fit the season, inspiring Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and seasonal stories. The new inspiration made me feel even more motivated because I had the support of my family. And I wanted to share this appreciation of the art with my new friends. I learned more of what the writers would like to see and worked hard to implement the new techniques. After that, the residents asked me to talk about my heritage and the history of Native Americans, which I was more than happy to share. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Which I was more than happy to share. I didn't stop with the history lesson, though. I told stories of me in college, shared poetry of love and heartbreak. I told them everything about my wonderful family. Go ahead and go to the next slide. I told my stories and shared my poems while the residents made plans to share their own. The writers told stories together of the past, the present, and works of their own imagination. Not only stories were shared, though, the writers and their ambition spread from stories to poems. Some recorded them, some kept them to the group, and some shared only with me. Go ahead and go to the next slide. The poems I recorded were crafted by the residents with care, and we intend to put a compilation of the recordings on the Laurel Oaks website, a permanent mark in the history books, not for me, but for the new writers and their poems about deer, nursing, and growing up. Go ahead and go to the next slide. The bonds built between the writers and I through the shared experience of learning and retelling were to last forever. Now, at the end of my time here, I talk of continuation through open letters to the community with program plans attached. I select the next person to lead programs who I'm confident will do great. And I say my goodbyes to let everyone prepare for my departure. Our chapter together is done here, but the book still goes on with new writers and chapters and characters to fill the pages of the Laurel Oaks history. I truly hope they'll look back on our chapter together here with a smile.
Thank you so much, Austin. I can't wait to hear those recordings. That's going to be just amazing. So thank you for that. And now we get to go to Jessica Mendez.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. So we'll begin. This is chapter 5, my chapter, my year as a SAIR. So I'd like to go to the next slide, please. So what seems like a long time ago, I, Jessica Mendez, a new green graduate student in the Sustainable Peacebuilding Program, accepted a student artist residency at the immaculate East Castle Place on the east side of Wisconsin, or I'm sorry, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I chose to participate in this program because I actually haven't had much interaction with older folks because my family, my mom and dad moved here to the United States and their mothers and fathers stayed in their home countries. So thus began a grand adventure with workshops, doggos, new friends, and COVID tests. Next slide, please. So in August and September, it was a very busy time, a lot of new things. Here we have a picture of the first and only time I've seen these lovely people in person. Next slide, please. So for me, I actually had a kind of a bit of a delayed start. Classes started in September, but I met my mentor, Laura, I think in October 1st. So the week after that was our first introductory event. Next slide, please. At this event, I introduced myself to the community members who decided to come to the event. Of course, there was a cap on the number of people who could come because of COVID, but I shared with them what I hoped to get out of this experience and to build with them. So I framed my time there as an opportunity for me to learn about the residents, their stories, building community, finding meaning, creating joy, and shaping positive peace. As a peace building student, I felt that this was obligatory, but the idea that positive peace is not just the absence of conflict, but the building up of communities and building upon their strengths. So at this event, the people that were there, I would call them the usual suspects. They're the people who would frequent my events in the future. Next slide, please. So in October and November, we started getting into the flow of things. However, we did see COVID restrictions start. Here's a picture of a little project I did in memory care. Next slide, please. So the first project was about change and loss. It was a stamping project, and I drew inspiration from the Chinese culture and idea of autumn. I guess in that cultural tradition, they think of autumn not just as colorful, but also centering on the color white as representing loss. So at this project, we talked about what do we look forward to in the coming months and the changing world as COVID was progressing, and what did we expect to lose or miss during that time. So you see the ones that are colorful are positive, and the ones that are more white and less colorful are more negative things. And it was a cathartic conversation about what was to come as things were starting to change. Next slide, please. Also, so every Wednesday morning, or about every Wednesday, I would go up to the 3rd floor at East Castle Place, which was our memory care floor, and I led some activities with the residents there. Again, it was my first time working with older folks, but also folks with dementia and other memory challenges. So it was a learning experience. There are some good days and some really great days. Yeah, it was learning, a good experience. We did activities like this, painting, clay, coloring, storytelling, watching Joe Biden become president. It was a good time. Next slide, please. In December and January, we saw the height of caseloads and things at East Castle Place were rarely restricted. There were no in-person events. So it was a pretty slow time for me. Next slide, please. So here, I decided to make a zine. I was inspired by some TimeSlips artists and actually borrowed a lot of the activities and a few activities from class with Basting and the other SAIRs, since we had class biweekly. So I put these all together and we printed out copies for each resident and put it in their mailboxes. Next slide, please. I also had some sheets around the mail rooms asking if people wanted to chat with me, since at that time I was still getting to know residents and it was really hard with COVID. People were just not around. So I had to try to reach out with calls. And for me, I don't like calls. I'm not sure if it's a millennial thing, but I had to get over that and get used to calling people. And it led me to really meeting great people that I think a pivotal part of my SAIR journey was pacing the phone calls and learning to reach out to people. There's a small project there too. Sent out holiday ornaments and asked people to answer some questions on them and decorate them so we could put them up in the mail rooms. This snowman, he says, my favorite part of the holidays are the snowmen and the snow women, of course. Next slide, please. These are some pictures also from memory care. Every week trying to do something fun and exciting. So here I brought a game from Mongolia and taught them to 3 residents. And then also we made some pots out of, I think, flour, salt, and water. Next slide, please. So I'm not sure the video will show. If you could click again. Okay. So during January, a resident and I had a pretty large project for us. If it might play again, well, we decided to do a community art project where we took the idea of 25 million stitches, which was about refugees, but we turned it and made it about lessons learned from COVID. So about 20 to 25 residents made muslin squares, and these reflected what they learned or what they did during COVID lockdown. We did hang them up in East Castle Place, and it actually got the news to come to East Castle Place and interview me and another resident who made a really great piece about the swimming pool. So I'm not sure if it'll play, but I think I'll be willing to share that link to anyone who's interested. Next slide, please. Oh. The technical glitch. Right. We can go to the next slide. So then February, March, of course, this one, vaccines were opening up life for us at East Castle Place. Here's me with resident Sue. We hung up some signs outside her apartment. Next slide, please. For me personally, it was a busy time. My sister gave birth to these cuties in February, so I did go home to spend some time with her and help her with the newborns. But during that time, I made a video about my time in Peace Corps, since people at the introductory event were asking so many questions, like, what's Mongolia like? So next slide, please. So I did make a video. It's not here, but I can also share that too, just about what Peace Corps is like, and also about Salkansar, which is the Mongolian Lunar New Year. This was played on the in-house East Castle Place channel, and people got to watch it during the week. And I had many residents come up to me saying, wow, I never knew that about Mongolia. And like, thanks for sharing. So it was really great for me to share that, such a pivotal moment of my life with others. Next slide, please. This is just a fun little side note. One of the residents wanted me, or Cooper, this is Cooper, he's one of the activity directors, to make faces on these puppets. And of course, I was like, why not? So I took them home and made some new faces for them, and she put them outside her apartment for decoration. Next slide, please. So around February, I was thinking about hearts, and so I decided to have a cute little event about heart-shaped bird feed ornaments. As you can see, it took some attempts since I've never worked with gelatin before, but eventually we did find a recipe that stuck. So during that event, we mixed bird feed, gelatin, hot water, and set them into different shapes. They also included dinosaurs, stars, hearts, and something else. Next slide, please. But the catch was that while we were waiting for the gelatin to sit in the fridge, we talked about the justice system and those imprisoned behind bars. So I hope you see the connection between birds and those incarcerated. We learned about an organization named Black and Pink Milwaukee and made birthday cards for about 6 folks whose birthdays were that month. Next slide, please. So April, May, coming up to the present. So it's warming up and we're becoming hopeful. This is me and Sue. We watched the sunrise together on Easter. Next slide, please. Inspired by Humans of New York, I organized a writing workshop called Humans of East Castle Place. We did some creativity exercises and then listened to Enya and wrote for 30 minutes. People at the end shared what they wrote, not verbatim, but like what they wrote about. And it was interesting to hear people write about instances that happened 20, 30 years ago, or even the week before. So it was a range of funny, touching, and sad stories. Next slide, please. So beginning in April, we had Earth Week, and the Environmental Committee was planning this. So a group of us created about 65 cards using recycled paper, and we sold them on this past Thursday, which was Earth Day. And all the proceeds went to a scholarship fund for East Castle Place staff. Next slide, please. So you can see here some samples of the cards. I'm not sure about other places, but dining was not allowed. So a lot of staff took the dinners and lunches up in dining bags. So we used dining bags to make all the cards and envelopes. Also, a resident and I worked together to create these little water mobiles to kind of market a metropolitan sewage department program called the Water Drop Project, where they send you text messages when it rains a lot so they can prevent overflows. So it was a really fun week. It was super successful. One resident, Marion, was in charge of this, and like she did a really great job, and I was really happy to be part of this. Next slide. So coming up, we have some projects lined up, Roots of Our Roots, where we hope to analyze the family histories of residents, potentially a photography contest, and a farewell party for me, and potentially some rental residents who have to move out by October. So as I wrap things up, I just feel really grateful for the chances to practice art, make new friends, and do meaningful work with the residents and staff. I can't thank Laura, Cooper, Scott, and other folks at East Castle Place enough for this time. Super grateful. And next slide, Finn.
So as you can tell, it's an enormous pleasure to really facilitate the learning and the growth of the SAIRs, but also of the incredible transformation that happens. I think one thing that we forget about in this country is just how segregated we are by age and ability, and to watch the learning happen in the communities themselves through this program is just a joy, and you get a little taste of that. I want to just take a second, and we're at 6:03. If you do have questions, please share them in the chat. And while you do that, I'm just going to take us on a tour around. We heard what happened over the last year, in some cases 2 years for two of the SAIRs who it was their second year. But I also want to just share with you a little bit of their next adventures. So Danielle, do you want to just share with us what comes next?
Yeah, after graduation, I'm moving to Minnesota to spend my summer as an adventure specialist at Campfire Minnesota, Tanaduna.
Thank you, Danielle. Natalie.
There I am. Yeah, a few things. So I plan on reaching my ultimate goofiness. If you couldn't tell by my presentation, that's kind of whimsy, and goofiness is kind of my thing. I am also going to be traveling abroad to Laos, and eventually I'd love to become an artist in residence in either a prison or a juvenile detention center.
May you reach your ultimate goofiness. Issa.
Yeah, I will actually be working with Deerwood Crossing on a community garden mural this summer. So I'm really excited about that. And then I am also going to be visiting my family in Mexico.
Thank you, Issa. And Austin.
I'm going to be moving back home to Jersey and taking a little bit of time off before continuing into a master's degree out east.
And Jessica.
Hi, so I'll be doing a virtual internship with Women for Afghan Women and potentially visiting Mongolia or going back home before doing my second year in my program.
Thanks so much. And we embrace, and some of the former SAIRs, as I said, we've been doing this for 8 years now. We have quite an alumni group, and some of them were listening in. We keep a community going. I'm really thankful to all of the mentors and the sites who make this experience possible. And also welcome the new SAIRs who we've just selected and are in the contracting process. And also invite anybody out there who has questions about wanting to replicate the program to make sure you let us know, and we're happy to be in touch with you as well. This has been a really remarkable sharing. I didn't know what was coming, and I'm really thrilled with the presentations. So Kathy, are you seeing any questions that you want to address real quick?
We just had one, and I thought I would share it with the group. The question was for Issa. Wanted to know where your heritage was for your family and what other languages you possibly speak aside from English.
Oh, yeah. So, I'm from originally Wisconsin, but my family, they are from Monterrey, Nuevo León, Mexico. And so half of my family's from there, and then my other half is more down south of Mexico in Iramoco, Guanajuato. And so I only know Spanish. I grew up with Spanish and English, so I'm just mainly those two languages.
Thank you so much for that. We just had one other question that came in, and this would be for all of the panelists. So you're all welcome to turn on your videos again if you'd like. This question is, what is the most important quality student artists and residents need to feel successful?
Don't all chime in at once.
Jump in. I would say the two most important would be compassion and flexibility, just being able to be present in your community and show up for them in whatever way they need you.
Definitely. I would say when you're working with a community, it's really, really, really important to kind of gauge the community and also pick up on their ways of communication and kind of sit back and absorb before you lead. It's much easier to lead with them as a group than to lead it individually and by yourself, because it's totally a group thing to understand and to work amongst people who want to have an interconnection with you too.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think before you can be a good leader, you need to be a good listener. I definitely learned that through this program. My initial programs were not as well received, but they told me what was wrong, and I was able to go back and kind of correct the errors and make everything better as a whole.
I would just like to emphasize patience. I think slowing down as a college student especially is so important. I think if I let myself be busy, I wouldn't have sat down and chatted with residents as they had their almost daily chat in the lounge. And like that was such a pivotal part of the community building for me. So being patient and slowing down.
To add to that, I think it's really essential to have a balance for yourself, knowing where you are as a student, as well as how you're doing in your residency, where you're located at, because you want to make sure that you can provide your best self. But to provide your best self for others, you need to really make sure that you have self-care be number one. So I think that's very essential.
And then our last question that we had come in for tonight is, would you recommend that others be a student artist in residence after your experience?
I would say with 100% certainty, yes. This has been an amazing experience as a whole. It's been a great time for me to be able to grow in a leadership position, as well as to be able to meet some really, truly incredible people, the other SAIRs included, but also the residents I was able to meet here and the people that I worked alongside, like Cesar and Wendy here at Laurel Oaks. It's just, there's nothing that I've personally experienced that beats this experience out.
And I'll add that for me, coming from Peace Corps, which was meant to be a community building kind of job, I think with SAIR, I was able to try those skills again, but also learn how to tweak them for older folks, since working in Peace Corps with a lot of children. But so for me, learning to build community with older folks and even the staff is such a pivotal and important skill. So anyone who's interested in community building, not just artists, I think can really benefit from this program.
And then we had one other final question that came in, and that was actually for Danielle. It's Danielle, how or would you consider working with elders in the future? And I'll actually piggyback. We just had another question that came in, and I'll just ask this for you and for the rest of your peers, is how to become a SAIR. So lots of interest from this group. This is awesome.
I would absolutely work with older adults in the future. I don't want my presentation to seem like I hated it or that it was all bad. I just wanted to be true to my experience and the difficult aspects of the program and working in health and human services and working with older adults that I didn't really know about prior to the program. But I do think it's feasible if you have the right kind of support and you're open to the experience. In terms of how to become a SAIR, I think we were all very lucky that UWM had a program in place for us to apply to. And like I said, I kind of just went out on a whim because I wasn't an art student. And originally that's what the program was directed towards. We just had kind of an interview process, and it was all great because everyone was so eager to get to know us and to have us join the team.
Well, if we don't have any other questions, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll just kind of finish off for this evening. Anne, any final thoughts from you?
Just in the evolution of the program, we've really come to see this as creativity and using creative engagement to build community. And as I said in the beginning, really tapping into one's innate creativity and inviting others to do the same. And we find that people from all different disciplines really are have skill sets, even if they're not training in their university experience to be specifically to learn the arts. We can do it with kids, with students, and from all different disciplines, which has been really thrilling. So thank you, Danielle, for breaking the ice on that one. You've taught us a lot. Kathy, I turn it back over to you to share about the final webinar coming up on Thursday.
Thanks so much, Anne. It's hard to believe that the month of April is almost done. With that, this Thursday, we have one more webinar, and it will be myself hosting 3 Duke University students who have been quite integral in a program that's called Dementia Inclusive Durham. So they'll be talking about their lessons learned and just how this process has kind of shaped their future as community activists and individuals who really want to make a change in kind of de-isolating anybody who is in the process of just living life. So the link for that registration is in the chat box. And as our festival concludes, we just want to say that TimeSlips really looks forward to bringing you these important resources and continuing the work to increase creative engagement for anyone, whether they have a disability or for those who love them, work with them, or know them somehow in the community. So we ask that you might consider donating to TimeSlips, and that will help us with our continued mission just to create meaning and joy for individuals later in life. So the link for the donate for TimeSlips is there on the chat as well. And again, thank you so much for joining us. You stayed over. We've had a very captive audience this evening, And we really want to especially thank the student artists and residents, their mentors, the communities in which that they have worked and served. We are just so grateful for you. Those of you who are here, you'll be receiving a short survey about today's webinar in the next couple of days. And again, thank you for filling the surveys out. Thank you for being here. And we really look forward from all of us to all of you to seeing you again soon. So please stay in touch. Thanks so much, everybody.